It has just gone 6 o'clock on Platform of Funny Conversations. What a pleasure to be together with you this Thursday. As you know, South Africa, particularly in the media space, we always talk of throwback Thursday TBT. Funny Conversations, we do it slightly differently, and we not only throw back, but we celebrate some of South Africa's leaders, people who make a change in South Africa. And our guest today is Lusanda Mbane, an actress, a master of ceremonies, a facilitator, a trainer, a speaker, and a social activist, the founder and chairperson of Lusanda Mbane Foundation. I think I can take more than 15 minutes just on the introduction, and that's how really Lusanda, another kid, Butterworth in the Eastern Cape, another kid has just come to meet in the entertainment sector, particularly when it comes to television. She's look at all of these with Lusanda for the next hour. I'm having this conversation with Lusanda. A lot of people curse the year 2020. People feel that 2020 actually is 2020. The acting and arts and industry has one way or the other been affected. Okay, apologies there, connection issues, but we are sorted out now. And let me bring her on air. Wow, sekhona comments abasitwesh ngeni nongena and Lusanda, from Funny Conversations, SA Leaders on Thursdays. Kunjani, it's such a privilege to host you.
Thank you. It's a great privilege to be hosted by you. I am more than honored. I am humbled. And thank you so much for having me. And thanks to everybody for tuning in.
Well, already there are people that are waiting for you. There are people that are excited that you are on the show. Where do we begin? I mean, you are one of South Africa's top actresses, Sisi Ongoboniswa, who scandal on ETV. We're gonna go there. But I just need to unpack everything that I know about you, that you're also a master of ceremonies, that you're also a speaker, that sometimes you are booked and called to speak, that sometimes you
Yes.
facilitate, and that you're also a trainer. And
Yes.
I love the last one, that you are a social activist. We have
Yes.
collaborated, you and I, Noma Bongs, on a few times through Izazi, Zitande, Zitende,
Yes.
talking to schools. Which of these in the basket do you feel it describes exactly who you are?
No, but the basket is incomplete without any of them. It's ingredients that create a whole. And without any of those ingredients, I'm not complete. So I'm a speaker, I'm a social activist, I'm a trainer, I'm an MC, I'm an actress, zonke zindim. And if there were to be any of them that are not there, there's a bit of a hole, there's a part of me that is not fulfilled.
Wow,
Hello, Notsigele.
I like that. No. I must say I like that. Um, I was tempted to suggest that the fact that you're a social activist brings you closer to social conscience about what's happening in the communities. Because the reason why I'm making this comment, I want to plug into your background. If you could share with us how you grew up, where you grew up, it will probably lead us to you being a social activist. Tell us more about Lusanda as a young girl, where she was born, where she grew up, and if there were any social ills to overcome, if there were any social imbalances, if there's anything that drove you today to be having a title that's social activist. Okay, so tell us about you. Nokukhula kwakho.
Yeah. So I grew up in a township called Msobomvu location. It's in Butterworth, Egoa, in the Eastern Cape. I was raised by a single mother. In fact, she was not single when I was born. She was married. But as early as when I was 5 years old, my father just sort of upped and left one day, literally, to go and buy bread, and then he did not come back. So then I found myself being raised by a single mother. I didn't understand at the time what had caused that. All I knew is that I would be walking down the street and there would be Mama about 2 streets away asking me, "Oh, Putadako." And then eventually it started to dawn on me that something was wrong. Sishiyiwe, asisenayo, kuthiwa uhlala kwesinye istrato around where we're staying, just not with us anymore. And my mother was at nursing school, so she would only come back on weekends. So we were literally left alone, my sister and I. So I think the first social ill that I experienced is being raised in a single parent household. The second thing I then had to experience is that as much as my mother wanted to...
And maybe before we move to the second one, how much of that as a social activist do you come across? Young people who say, "Chikuliswangu, single mother, and this is the situation, and these are the disadvantages." And how much of that do you come across as you engage and interact with young people through your foundation?
I suppose, Buddhiza, you attract what you are, because I find that I attract a lot of that. As much as many people would go to so-called public figures and ask for things, fancy things, when it comes to me, people ask me for basics. They will tell me that I'm being raised by a 59-year-old mother, she's not working, and we are hungry right now. Or I have a dream to one day be an actor. I've been accepted into acting school after. There is not a single cent that can take me there. So that's the kind of thing that convinces me that we attract who we are. Because, sometimes I feel like, why do I keep attracting this? Because it comes to a heart of a person who knows what it's like. And so it becomes very difficult to ignore that. And that's why then the social activism comes from the fact that I then want to try and help. But yes, I attract who I am and what I am.
How old was Daddy when he left? And did he ever come back? How? When I say how old, I'm trying to imagine perhaps any amount of time that you personally spent with him, and if you have any memories.
I do have memories of him because he did not move far from where we stayed. So when I was born, he was 34. So when he left us, he was 39. So he was 39. And then he sort of moved in with another lady within the neighborhood. So I never really lost contact with him. I just lost him and his heart and his willingness to do anything for us. But walking in town in Butterworth, I would see him, and I'd see him with other people's kids trying to find schools for them at a time that we didn't have money to go to school. So it really hurt. I still don't understand the circumstances, and no, he never came back. But he kind of did come back in a coffin in 2011.
This is amazing. And were you able, and I know this is tricky, were you able as a child to say, hang on, this is my dad. I'm not going to fight battles which are not my battles. He probably left us because they might have had issues, mama. But I'm not going to fight mama's battles. I need access to this man. And did you get that access? Did you find that love, even though it could have been remote, it could have been from a distance? Were you able to find love from a distance?
I wouldn't say so, Butiza, because I did have access to him, and I would see him and I would go to him. And because of the personality that I am, I kind of even forced him to account, and I'd go to him and say, you know, as a Christmas, as a Christmas, just between him and I. And I remember, I mean, we still laugh about it with my husband now because I guess we went past the sensitivity, but he would say to us as a standard response that imali yempahla uyifake kwi-insurance for thina. I didn't know what insurance was. I didn't know what it would do for me. I wanted Christmas clothes, and the standard response I would get is that usi insurile, and that's where the money is. And to his death, I never got to see it. So no, I didn't. And then once again, when I matriculated, I did reach out to him for my matric dance dress, and I said to him, matric dance, you know. And Umama, I think when she put away the savings, she could afford it. But I think it was that need for love. I insisted that I wanted it from him. For me, it meant more than just a dress. And from March to August, because the matric dance was going to be in August, from March to August, he promised that he would give me the matric dance. He's saving it up and July so that the dress can be made. And then when the day came for me to collect the money, he told me to go to a magistrate's court where he worked and fetch it at 10. And I was there at 10, and I sat there for hours only for the secretary lady to say it was quite strange that he told me to come at 10 because he leaves at 9 on a Friday. So, I mean, I never got it. And when I went back home, my mom had saved up the money because she already knew that I was never going to get it, but she wanted to give me the satisfaction of getting it from him. So no, I didn't. And then lastly, my 21st as well, I invited him, went to find him, went to tell him all the details and what role I wanted him to play. And when the day came, only his family came, and they came with a letter from him that he wrote for me to say that he's come down with double pneumonia. I'd never heard of double. I mean, I didn't know how quickly that could happen, but the point is he didn't pitch. So I was very attached to him because my personality takes after him. He was a court interpreter who played with language to people's entertainment. The courtroom was full just because people wanted to listen to him, and he was an actor in anything that he did. So I really was attached to him, and I wanted to get his attention, but that's unfortunately one part of my life that I made peace with that I never got.
So, in your adulthood and with your achievements in life, the fact that you cracked it to television, and not only did you just crack it, and you made a huge success of it. Quick comments now. Wow, when you're playing what you're playing. I think and did you get any feedbacks? The reason why I'm asking that is because it's important for children to get feedbacks from parents about what they do, particularly things that are done in the public domain. and you being one of South Africa's top actresses, did you get feedbacks from him? Did you get to be commended? You know, those kind of short messages that say, well done, my baby, I'm proud of you. Did you get any of those?
Actually, yes, I did. And I think that's probably what I continue to hold on to every day, because in his last days, I mean, they weren't his last days because he didn't know that it was his last days because he passed away due to an accident. But sort of in the last year, he did try to reach out, you know, even though it was reaching out to probably, you know, ask me for airtime or something like that. But he reached out, and I would then find out from people that he was bragging about me. You know, he would sort of ask me what I'm up to in the next couple of weeks, and I would tell him, and then he would go bragging about it as if he got the information firsthand from me. So he would tell people that I'm emceeing in PE this week and I'm speaking in Cape Town, and he was very proud. And even though I didn't always get that from him, but I got it somehow. And then also, lastly, the last incident I remember is that I had to speak at a family funeral that he was at. And I spoke there in his presence. Yeah. And I will never forget, because he said to me, without having given me any kind of feedback all my life, but on that day, which was also on his last year, he said to me, "Yazi Squash, so for me, that was all the acknowledgement, all the affirmation I have ever needed from him all my life, and I continue to hold on to that.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's so powerful. Just that recognition, it's amazing. Do you consider yourself an emotional person?
Yo, Jingulilian Putiza, I am very emotional. I'm very emotional, and I'm very in tune with my emotions, and I'm very expressive of them. I'm not the kind who will try to look like I've got it together when I don't. So as a result of that, I'm an open book. You'll usually be able to read how I'm feeling.
Your profile is amazing. It's got speaker, it's got MC, it's got trainer, facilitator. Tell me about the MCing, and how did you discover that you could MC and facilitate? And maybe we could combine those together. How did you discover that? And since I was like, you're actor, but how did you discover you're such a multi-talented person?
I discovered it, the emceeing specifically, I discovered it through you. But you emceed a wedding that I attended in 2008 where I had to speak, and you were the MC. And you did it, obviously, Butiza style that I've come to know, but I was so wowed. I was so, like, I wanted to get on a stage and just do what you're doing. And from then on, I actually started to offer myself to people as a potential MC, even though, I mean, I wasn't sure how well I would do, but I think my confidence levels are very healthy. So I was very willing to try. And I'm happy that you didn't see me in those first couple of years of my MCing, because I literally said your jokes. I did it the way you did it. It was like a copy and paste in your straight. It was a copy and paste straight into Enjalo. And luckily, some of the people had never seen you MC, so it seemed original, because I believe I'm quite capable of carrying something, even when it's a copy and paste. So I carried it very well, but it was literally everything that you had said in the first wedding that I attended. And so I continued with that blueprint of using your MCing until eventually I had to kind of come to you and just ask you to help me so I can be me in this thing, because up until now, I'm still you type of thing.
Wow. I mean, I'm humbled. I'm actually touched that sometimes when we do what we do, it's important that we know that there's an opportunity that somebody is watching, not just watching, but watching.
Yes.
That somebody is being inspired, and that's why I remember addressing my colleagues at SABC a couple of years ago, around 2011, 2012, and I said, guys, we are all here because we're doing what we love. But guess what? We got to love what we do.
Yes.
And loving what you do means improving it every time, because there could be somebody that's watching you for the first time, and the first impressions have no second opportunity. And I'm so humbled. I'm so humbled. It's the first time I get this feedback from you. I've known you for many years, but it's the first time that I get this feedback. In the
light, light. I did them exactly the way you did them, Putiza. No, uno pochi waikona la joke yampuku yaikona pa leana yoba indoda yafaki advert yoba is looking for a wife, then bonke bathi gqibesithi you can take mine yaikona nayo pa ndazithetha zonke Putiza zinjalo.
Wow, look, I'm happy that at some stage, I'm really humbled, and I remember that in your emceeing Nam, I was blown when in 2015 when we did Ibuele Kaya together and we shared the stage. Ibuele Kaya, you remember that?
That was a highlight, Putiza. That was a huge highlight and completely out of my comfort zone as well. I mean, to have to work with you, I even had nightmares about it. I mean, I remember for months before that emceeing, for that month leading up to, I would even dream that I was walking on stage in Kwajwali Stadium. Those are the kind of anxieties I had around that magnitude of an event. So that was a highlight.
Wow. Okay, and you still do MC and what kind of gigs do you do? Some of us do everything from funerals to weddings and anniversaries and birthdays, corporate events, government events, everything. What kind of events do you do so that abantu abasibukeleyo ngokuhlanje ayazi into okokuba angakubhukha? What kind of events do you do and how do you get booked? Where are you managed and all of that? I really need sometime in the future that somebody will say, thanks to Pat Komafani Conversations, Lusanda.
Oh, I'm sure that will happen.
What kind of gigs do you now do and how do we book you?
Okay, so firstly, what kind of events do I do? My first passion is empowerment and inspiration kind of events. So if that is the end result, if you want the kind of MC that throughout is throwing in inspiration so that the texture of the entire event is inspirational, I'm your person. I tend to attract women empowerment kind of events. I think about probably even 60% of my work is women empowerment kind of events to MC. When I put this stadium, I've done it and I was happy to have done it, but I made that decision that it's not me. So that I kind of moved away from. So and the EMC that is more inspirational, motivational, thick and rich in content, probably that kind. I do also get invitations. Listen, Putiza, after I watched you emceeing weddings, I also chose not to go that route at all, because when I watch you and I see how it ought to be delivered, I'm like, hi, that is another one that, having watched you, I made that decision. But I, in fact, in the so I do inspiration and women inspirational kind of events. I do personal events, even though I've always said to you, even I try not to attract two personal events, birthday because I find that it really needs you to be personal. And you would know this because I've called you a number of times. These are MCI event, a personal and you've had the responsibility of having to tell me this, because when you MC a personal event, it needs to feel personal. I can't. So for me, I try try and shy a little bit away. I don't handle that very well, so I try to. So mostly corporate events, some women empowerment, some empowerment inspirational, some conferences, that kind of thing.
Okay, amazing, beautiful. And that goes with facilitating. Do you facilitate workshops?
Yes, I do. Yes, I've facilitated a number of workshops in my life, and many of them are usually from the corporate space. I have had the luxury of being exposed to a lot of industries, because before I was in the recruitment space. Now, when you are in recruitment, at some point you have to hire somebody for the engineering sector, then the IT sector, then the FMCG sector, and whether you like it or not, you kind of have to learn the industries. And what that gave me is the ability to adapt and to be able to speak the lingo of many industries. And that is why then people then do use me to facilitate their workshops, knowing that it will take very little to brief me and get me into their space and actually sounding like I know their space.
Yeah, yeah. How important in your view, Squash, is the issue of somebody knowing their limits, knowing their limitations? You had a re-look at emceeing, for instance, weddings or birthdays or anniversaries or whatever. You know, what I call the family category. You know, you had a re-look at this, and abanye abantu abanayo lo, they just want to take any job that comes along. How important is one knowing their limits and then from there having a niche?
I mean, I am a founder of a movement called Zazi. So ukuzazi to me is crucial. And when you say your limits, it does not in any way undermine your capabilities. It's to say, what are your strengths and what is your niche, so that you can work on that and focus on that. At what point you're 7 and 20 and 2 out of 10, rather work on the one where you are already 7 out of 10 or improve yona. So Buddhism, I believe it's very important. It's extremely important. Njengomntu ozawuma in a corporate event that is full of executives, amane bane-liners, man Julo John Vuligate, you understand? So then it becomes very important to be able to read the room, but more importantly, read yourself, know your own strengths, know your own capabilities, and work within those so that you shine. Akho point yo 30 fee abantu bhatalo yoba average and 20 abantu. That's my stand on it.
Wow. So those are words of wisdom. I need us to talk about the acting. a lot of people are fast forwarding the conversation, you know, towards that. We comments. I mean, ubulelwa Zuma, the city Lusanda. How the ungaza kwi-scandal yumnandi xa ukhona kuso.
Thank you.
From the guest speaking to the acting to the facilitating and all of that, put that aside, what do you take with you when you're doing a new scene, when you hand it over the scripts, and what's your preparation that makes sure that, number one, uboniswa wile character ethandwa kangaka, that ayiyo? What did you invest in boniswa wena as Lusanda?
You know, the challenge about a soapy, Buddhism, you know, sometimes you get given a role in a film as awqala, then uyophela, and it kind of affords you the opportunity to invest in a lot of preparation because you know who the character is. The thing about a soapy is that you get given a brief, like I was given a brief when I started at Scandal 4 years ago. Kwakuthiwa uboniswa is a loving, warm, mother naturally. Kwakuthethwa into ezinjalo that were very warm, that could do no wrong, that loved people. That was the initial brief. And I'm sure you would have seen now how that has taken literally a 180-degree turn, and she's completely somebody else now. So unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of putting in that kind of preparation. So I really have to say, I take with me my truth. I take with me prayer, and I always say to the universe, you gave me this. You gave me this that is now celebrated by a lot of people. And I have only that you are now going to let me down on this. I'm trusting the very same talent that has carried me up to where I am. So yes, I read the character Bible. She comes from the Eastern Cape. In that, then at least I know that, okay, so uzawuthetha course, all right? Where in this Eastern Cape? Okay, she comes from a small town called Tofimvaba. Then that gives me bigger context. But all right, so isiXhosa sakhe ayizibasesi samalitye asebhayi, izabasesi sidesibene ndawo ngathi yarola ezibaseTofimvaba. I take that from the character brief that tells you where she comes from, because ndidla ngobava abantu eTofimvaba bayarola xa bethe isiXhosa bayasijula then I'm going to speak like that because I've been given that context. I'm told of her background. Who gave birth to her? That way, I'm then going to bring that context into the character. Then at least that gives me a starting point. After that, I just put a little bit of me into it, because me is the truth, because my truth is then injected into Boniswa. I put that in there. After that, sihamba sobabini ke ngoku the whole 4 years. That's not what I was told coming in here. Now, how do I do this? Then you will see, for example, Boniswa transformed and started whispering like Teta, because when she speaks like that, it's because of the context that now she's hiding secrets. So she has transformed with me, and I've made the decisions along the way to try and fit lendawo abekwe kuyo. The ex-boyfriend having to accept gay. I mean, we have to tap into different emotions and different truths and different perceptions that I have of the world, to be honest with that. And yes, can also connect with this as Linda and in the comments. Boniswa yinyani uba uzawuthatha nomamba ekugqibeleni izeblonto andizi andiphenduli kwayona bhutisa makabuye ngoku. Let me try and see other comments. Okay.
All right. I think, apologies, guys. I think we had a little bit of a disconnect, and you were bringing up something powerful about what you invested in the character. I like the fact that you said uboniswa wayengaseCofimvaba, wayengeyo unkosikazi yaseNew Brights. Bangaba wayengaseNew Brights. But how important is that understanding? And ezinye actors ziyayenza nyhani nanto yokuba umuntu akhayospenda noba iveki kuloo Cofimvaba ayo-understanda ne-dialect yakhona, nendlela ekuthethwa ngayo, nelingo yakhona, netone yesiXhosa sakhona, namagama athile a-unique asetyenziswa eCofimvaba qha ungaweva kwezinye indawo. Wena ubusoyiphethe yonke i-lifestyle yasesiCofimvaba nokuthi abantu bakhona bathetha kanjani, benza yonke lento, because it's amazing indlela ovele wamkhulisa ngayo uBoniswa.
Thank you, Butiza. I think uBoniswa, luckily for me, i-background yakhe I could easily understand it, because nendawo azihambileyo nezotshatela eBhisho nam ndizenze in exactly that way. So it's really a life that I could identify with and I could live. You understand? IsiXhosa neentonto zaphaya ndiyazazi, neelingo zaphaya, ne-dialect, ne-context nje zapha zoba ithini into yaxa upha. And so I've even played an advisory role in the story xa kunyanzelekile uba ubuze uba eBhisho bekuzawuthwani, and then advise the way to here and there where it's necessary. So that background research is very important, Butiza. That's what makes characters either believable or not believable. You are not there to read lines. Nalamdu ubhaleleyo, ubhale the guideline. To inject life into it is your responsibility by getting and gathering context.
I like that. Yeah. And the question upper ebuzwa ngumlamli Mancala. I mean, umlamli is another big actor also in the country. And umlamli ubuza umbuzo obalulekileyo. How long does it take you to get out of character? Ungaziboni sowufika endlini unguboniswa from a setting. So how long the into character and the out of character? Just tell us about those mechanics and that exercise and how you handle that when
For me, Butiza, my own routines include music. I rely on music that Lusanda loves to bring me back to Lusanda a lot. So I take a lot of time in the car. I'm one of those people that parks for an hour before I come into the house because I'm trying to get back into myself. So that is my strategy of de-rolling. I will do things that make Lusanda happy. And most of the time, it is through listening to motivational music, to gospel music, and out loud, and I pray my inner whatever, and I try. It's not easy, Butiza, because it doesn't always work. I mean, I did struggle specifically with Uboniswa when her husband Siseko passed away. Literally, I would get on set and I would have to wear lelokwe yezila imnyama, and I had to wear that for a month, and it was automatically even a trigger in my head that I would walk on set, put it and I would start crying immediately because I was required to cry. But it became so hard to get out of that space because seeing that dress became a trigger. I mean, that's probably a deeper kind of psychology that I probably can't explain, but seeing that dress would make me battle to get out of, I'm going to even say, a depressive state of anxiety, no. So I do have my routines, which include spending me time and listening to a specific, and there's, in fact, I can even go as far as saying there are specific songs that I listen to in this fagayo to get me out of that space because those take me back to Lusanda. But I really have to be honest, it doesn't 100% work 100%.
It looks like we've got a it looks like we've got a delay again on our connection. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Nomvuyo esasemcuncuzo eyoqina engxaba wenyukele ngaphaya kumthingwevu Nomvuyo. Wow. Buya Butisa. Hey, noma ngase ndibe ndicula nocula because wow. because, well,
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, you've touched a lot on that, and what fulfills more in your view, we artists, ukubizwa kwi-awards okanye ukuwelwa ngabantu, say in a shopping mall? What is it that gives you a fulfillment?
well, Buddha and Gaya's lay award, so I cannot compare to that because I don't have the context. I don't know. But I guess Andy Fumanayo ile abantu that go beyond to celebrate the work that I do. And you know, watching abantu appreciate your work so much is almost like an out-of-body experience. I cannot compare it to anything.
Sure.
Like people sometimes going as far as making a fool of themselves, and you're like, guys, and you're like, but this is the effect that this has on her. And that is the reason, Butiza, I made a very conscious decision. When I got into the industry, a lot of people would tell me into yobana ndizawudikwa ngabantu, ndandihlala ndincuma ndifota bathi bengxamile ndithi no ndizawufota imani but yo uzawubona ke ndixelele uzawudikwa. And it's been years now, Butiza, and andidikwa Butiza ngabantu, because yes, there are some days when I'm not having the greatest of days. Ndiyibone isiza uba oh bathi nguye nekukho la nguye ke uvele uyazi uba izawuyaphi emva koko. Like, oh guys, I'm so low today. But those people even serve as a pick-me-up for me. But ngondicinga uba andifuni ndizibone sendingene zwapha ndiphakathi halakasha kule nto le picture ndincumele ezi-10 ndiphawutha ndiphakamisa nemilenze. So for me, I will never take that for granted, ever, at all. And andisobe ndidinwe and andisobe ndiphakamele. It doesn't matter how much I get celebrated. So there are challenging moments.
It's tricky though, especially COVID-19. How do you handle COVID-19 being flooded by fans and of course social distancing and zonke zifuna selfie?
Oh, but this is hardly 3 weeks ago. I think maybe by 300 abantwana besikolo bebekhwele phezu kwam bonke ndathi oh Nkosi yini bawo uzundithwale ukuthi ndashiyeka ngomthandazo nje qha kwanyanzeleka uba mandibambe umthandazo Bhutiza, because it's difficult also because le COVID ayidibani nje nalo mntu ndinguye, so it's a constant battle to be an example and keep the distance, and that at the same time is fighting with the person that you are, because umntana esikolo I live for empowering those people and motivating and inspiring those people. So it becomes an inner fight and it becomes so hard. And one of the instances, like the ones at Kobo, hayi ndabayeka bazenzela phezu kwam andafutha ndandingathi ndiligqwigqwi xa ndibuya ndifuta ndimane ndisongeza umfutho komnye umfutho, because I was like ngoku i-reality yabo iba God inkulu isawundehlela but and God protected me because I believe God knows my heart. I mean, it's very hard, but also to try and balance that with the laws of the land and also just looking out for your health and other people's health. And it's not natural to me.
Yeah. Okay. That's quite profound, actually. And there's a comment here that I'd love us to pay attention to. Ayanda Ndamo. There's never a dull moment talking about Lusanda
Mbane. Okay, that's a joke that I know. Okay.
Is there a downside to that perception? There's never a dull moment when Lusanda is around. Is there a downside to that?
I think there are always downsides, Butiza. It can't be 100% realistic to expect that there will never in my whole life be a dull moment when I'm around. But I'm a strong, firm believer in keeping the dull moments to myself. So, andivuka ndiziva uba ndikho kule nto abantu bakuyo those are the days I try not to go out. Those are the days I spend with myself, looking within me and talking to me and feeding my soul, and whatever it is that is making me feel slightly empty on the day, I try and feed so that my cup can be full again. So that is why you will find people be saying there's never a dull moment, because they never see a dull moment. I leave my house because I know that I'm at my top, or I'm at my 100. And the other thing about people like me, Butiza, with my personality of there's no dull moment, is also the fact that in 100 or nothing. You know, is it dark behind me now? Sorry, has this light gone off? Sorry, this is bothering me. The thing about people like me is that in Dibaku 100, in terms of giving of myself fully, usuka kwamapo andibinayo 17 or 16 of ndiyaku 0 straight. So I always then ensure that I spend the time filling up my cup, because then I don't want to run the risk of having people making demands of me when I've got nothing to give. So I can say technically it's true what Ayaz is saying, because that's what they experience. Because Pakwa 0, the dull moments, I stay here and I keep to myself and I talk to me and I feed my spirit.
I like that. I like that. My guest today, Lusanda Mbane. And we're talking about her career at its broadest. And at some stage, while I was doing the DEE, Umhlobonene FM, you were on True FM, guest Sundays.
Yes. Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
We from the radio do miss you. And what happened, and any intentions to come back to radio again?
Let me say this, Budil. I was at True FM for a little under 2 years. I went into True FM to learn. I made that intention very clear, that my intention was to learn as much as I could about the basics of radio. And the intention after that was to grow naturally, like we would all want to. Now, the challenge I had at True FM is that it was Eastern Cape based. It was a regional radio station. And as a result, I was the only person that was in Johannesburg, which made it difficult sometimes even to broadcast, because, you know, you can't have the technical support like the people Abaset Bisho have. And also the fact that my show was on Sundays was a bit of a thing, because usually on Saturday I would be emceeing or speaking somewhere in Klambe, Eastern Cape, or Durban, and now I have to find a flight to come back to where, or go to wherever there's an SABC broadcast center so that I can do my show. So I had some challenges that were directly in my way of doing the show, but you know, I did it for just under 2 years, happily so. And ndingumntu ke Butiza ogqiba ngoku enze ngoku. I'm very instinctive. I don't take forever making any decision. Uba ndicingile ivele ndivele itshantliziyo eselistrong yenyuke you know it ndiyenze ke ngoku namhlanje lento bendiyicinga. So one Sunday I just did the show, and when I finished I made that decision about, okay, that was my last show, I'll give them my resignation, ezilandela ishow endizawuzenza zezoba sendisebenzela ukuphuma ngoku. And why I decided I had done what I needed to do at True FM. Ndangabi nayo mhlambe enye gig ba kuthe kuyaqhutyekwa, but I knew that, how do I close that? Ndandingekabi nayo ninibona kahle, ndandingekabi nayo enye igig uba ndithi mhlambe ndiyaphiphipa, but I had decided that my time at True FM was done, and I was happy with what they had taught me. They had taught me, so I said my thank yous. I was completely grateful, left the door open, left the door positive, left the bridge completely correct, and I left. And also I was very busy at the time with TV. That's when Scandal wanted me on full time. They didn't want me to take on anything else, because they were about to write scripts that were literally going to require me from 6 in the morning to 7. So it was getting busy that side. So I made that decision. As for going back, Butiza, radio, I think, is a bug that when it bites you, that's it. So, and also the thing is, I mean, on TV, you know, you are scripted. You know, Uboniswa is somebody that is not me, and radio gives you the platform to be you, to say, so it's very addictive. So ndikhe ndahlala ke mhlawumbi 2 years ndiyicinga nje kancinci kancinci but ndingayicingi kakhulu. And recently ngoku ndiyicinga kakhulu ngoku Bhutiza, isentsho iqale laa nto yomane nditsweba ngoku nasebusuku imane ndithi laa nto yalaa radio, so iyatsweba ke ngoku. And xa inditsweba ke mna ke I believe into yobana I then need to start making calls, writing emails, calling people, ndiyobalanda naseziteyijini naphi na. And I've decided now that I'm going to get back into radio, noba iza kwenzeka kanjani but yeyona nto iza kwenzeka because I've made the decision. So ke ngoku ndizawukhangela abantu abazandifaka, ndibacele nje kakuhle uba ndicela umsebenzi, ndive xa isithi hayi uba utsho ngabondiwe khona ke.
Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you're part of it. Lusanda Mbane, uboniswa ngowenu. It becomes difficult sometimes with audiences to strike, the balance or tell the difference between Lusanda and Boniswa, and sometimes ungafela izono ze correct. Akona abantu abazondwa generally, and uzondwa incorrect. Akuzondwa yena, uzondwa la character. Yeah, but because he had way la character, ilapha kuwe, and so sabebona wena. Have you attracted any not necessarily enemies? Enemies is a bit harsh, but have you attracted people that said, I am intending upon this one, and you felt it was too personal? Has it ever happened to you that way?
But it happens a lot. Character yakho. Okay, recently, at least in the past 6 months, according to the apple life in a mask, Bhutiza, and then you say, Ibe la pesa lukamelo ndigume na lenda. So I think during the times of COVID again, I mean, there's very few who will then recognize me beyond the mask. But I found in the past that nobefika engandifuni nondibona esonyanya kwanto ithi boniswa. I find that when they get to just even say hi to me, for some reason they get disarmed. Ndiyancuma Bhutiza, ayiba uzawuthi awundifuni ngoba ndithe ndincome kangaka ndincokola nawe sihleka. So andifuni jonga wena, andifuni nokubona ngase ndiqhwabe nangempama, then ndive ngabo sebesithi khawuze sifote, uyabona ndithi khawuze sifote, and then so I'm like, okay, this is love-hate scenario. So I find that they do get disarmed and they are very convinced that abandifuni qha baxakiwe ke ngokuba kutheni benayo indawo efuna ufota nam, but okay, ungathi manje ndiyafuna qha ndiyayifuna ifota now, iza, and then they, it's kind of that. I've never really experienced anybody ondicaphukela kuphele, and hayi azange bafika becaphuke bezizifu kodwa bafika bahleke by the time they leave.
Okay, lovely. Wow. Time runs so fast. Can you believe it? It is 6 minutes to the hour of 7. 6 minutes to the hour of 7. And there's still so much to talk about. I remember you and I, when we had our brief chat off air sometime this afternoon, you also told me about, and I've seen some of your videos. Talk to me about the videos that you do, that you post, and why you do those videos, and what are the spin-offs? Do you feel that they have a reach? Can you share with us one powerful experience of somebody who was inspired and made a right about turn in their life because of a particular video that you posted?
You want just one example, which is I have hundreds and thousands of examples, but okay. Which is that the videos is something I'm grateful for lockdown, Gazo, because lockdown is that thing that kind of forced us to look into ourselves, especially someone who's an extrovert, who's a free spirit like myself. It really got me very anxious to hear 21 days. I mean, my anxiety levels were literally shooting up. I've always had opinions about things, but I don't necessarily like sharing my opinions. I think I'm going to changing on those abantu. So I'm not even very big on debating. I've got my strong views, but it's not important to me to change the next person's mind about it. The writing nandizas. So in lockdown was the first time I actually felt a need to record anything. And the first video that I recorded, I think, was about sanitizing your heart and your mind. And it was that when sanitizing was still very big in Glendo COVID. It was like day 3 of a lockdown. Then day 7, I now started getting courage to record something else. And around day 7, I recorded something about la joke idla ngothethwa yofudo abantu ababe 21 days at 10 what am ayolanda ukutya labo ifudo lathanda and ufudo lathanda ndisibasaya, and then that got such traction and I was like, oh, I can't believe I've never trusted just my thoughts before, you know, just trusting your thoughts, because that's all it was. It was recording my thoughts as I'm thinking them, because I'm not even the type that prepares. And so I found that it was so positively received. And then it started growing, Lendia's video. And then the other day, I was interviewing Abantu Be Reception, literally. And I told me, I said, but they would then make the silliest mistakes that I felt. So I would then do that. Interviews, about going to interviews because I come from a recruitment background. So then I did that. I think that Butiza is the one that has been the biggest. I mean, Zonke give me a lot of feedback, but I think Lemi Sebenzi, for people to come back to me and say, Sis Lusanda, ndi-aplaye unyaka onehafu zange ndibizwe ndithokwa for i-interview. I watched your video, I wrote notes down, ndathatha yonke le nto ubuyithethile ndayi-aplaya ngolu hlobo uyithethe ngalo. Not only did I get called for an interview, I got called to 2. And ngoku ndiyifumene le misebenzi, I now have to choose uba ndizawuaccepta ophi. And for me, that was like, oh my gosh. And then balandelelana bhuti zabantu abafumene umsebenzi, and I was like, it's so amazing how into encinci oyenzayo wena ushara nje into oyaziyo and ubucinga uba i-obvious into oyaziwayo, and now somebody gives you that kind of feedback. So I think it's been an encouragement. So I've gone further to share things like social media etiquette, because we assume that people know and they don't always know. So I think even though being an regularity how often, but when I get that thing and it chase up, I'm detect.
And does it plug in Zazi's Tande's pen, what you do on the videos?
Yes. I think, Butiz, I can safely say that is the thread, that is the underlying theme of anything that I will ever do. You will not, for example, hear me preaching about relationships. If I do, my context will be to say, fill your cup, uzthande, uzthembe. So everything that I'm ever going to say is from where I take from. Mnandithatha intobana, everything that I need is within me, and within me uqala ngoba ndizazi uba ndingubani, ndivelaphi, ndiyaphi, kusacrifice ntoni for me to be where I am. And then looking at that person, fall in love with her, because you have to fall in love with yourself where sort of being plastic is the in thing. You have to fall in love with what you see on the outside and in. And then from then on, as you go into the world, you then have to trust that you are enough. That stand out. I mean, if you had to go into my industry, red carpet, I'm probably an outlier. I'm not that. Understand? And I'm not necessarily in the spaces where I would be expected to be found. But I had to believe that that's fine. That's enough. What I'm supposed to attract, I will attract, because I'm just me. And this is what you get. You understand? I'm this personality. I'm confident. And if that annoys you, ask because that's the way that I'm made. You understand? So I think that is the common thread in everything that I will ever say to the world. It's based on ukuzazi, wena qala, nokuzithanda, wena nokuzithemba, when you give yourself out to the world, that you are enough. Have I lost you now? It's exactly 7 o'clock. So from the Patco Mafani conversations, it's goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us and joining our guest, and to our guest for tonight, Lusanda Mbane. I'd like to thank you for spending an hour of your time with us. I hope that there has been some takeaways that you've taken from the conversation, and feel free to give us any feedback that you may have in the comments section. If you are looking for Lusanda Mbane, whether to book her or just to listen to anything that she may have to say, you can follow her on Instagram. She is at Lusanda Mbane. Apa ku Facebook ukona ungu at I am Lusanda Mbane, and she's also on Twitter at Lusanda Mbane. I hope you're able to find her, and if you need to send me formal correspondence, you're welcome to email her on lusanda@lusandambane.com. So if Butiza is not able to come back to us today, I hope I've closed the show for him. So from us at Patco Funny Conversations, it's thank you and good night.